Well, fellas, this is a video series where I go through the installation, out-of-the-box experience, and how beginner-friendly a distro is. At the end of the video, I will say if they pass a check of being beginner-friendly. All of these will be installed on a virtual machine, so the experience across the series will be similar. In this episode, though, I decided to go a bit bigger and choose a couple of Linux distros that have one thing in common. They're based on Debian.
No, not you, Seamus. Ah, poo.
As you remember, a couple of beginner-friendly Linux distros have certain criteria to be beginner-friendly. For one, I didn't set that it has to be Debian-based necessarily, but thing is, beginner-friendly ones that are Debian-based are simply not on a rolling release, while those like Manjaro and Endeavour OS are based on Arch and on a rolling release.
But what about Fedora?
Oh yeah, Fedora. The community is a bit divided on this one. Well, some say it's great for beginners, cause it's stable, and some say it's absolutely not beginner-friendly. But in this video, I go into a bunch of them. The biggest criteria, in my opinion, for them to be somewhat beginner-friendly is easy to install, meaning the installer is not complicated, GUI applications making the regular user not use the terminal, and them being somewhat stable based on the community and personal experience, because I've tried certain distros. First we try a Linux distro I haven't tried ever, but seems to be beginner friendly from what I heard. It's Debian based and the website offers free desktop environments. Those are XFCE, KDE, and Fluxbox. Tried the first one that was intended for MX Linux, and that is XFCE. The ISO is 2.6 GB. For all of the distros I will do the same setup as always. 4 cores, 4 GB of RAM, and 50 GB of storage space. Luckily they offer for every version or different included desktop environment a way to download it via SourceForge, different mirrors, and torrent client. I prefer downloading my ISOs for Linux through a torrent client so that in worst case it can continue. Sure, Firefox can also do that, but I just prefer a torrent client. What I really like about MX Linux is that they have a whole 192-page manual to learn Linux. The best part of it though is that it's very likely in your language, which explains how Linux works and what it exactly is. Explain how to make a bootable drive, how to check the data integrity of the ISOs. So basically, if you're new to Linux and just really want to learn it, this is a great and free way to do it, by the way. First, we are greeted with either testing out MX Linux, giving a super user access and password, or to install MX Linux, which we will do. First is checking the install media. We pick the keyboard layout and drive where we want to install. And we see the process of the installation. We can also adjust the swap amount. I like to pick the current amount of RAM plus 2 GB, in my case 4 GB plus 2, which is 6 GB or 6144 megabytes. Now we get to choose the computer name, the name for our computer domain, and Samba server for MS networking. In other words, gives us the possibility of file and printer sharing with the Microsoft network using the SMB/CFS or server message block or common interface file system protocol, which can be really neat. Now we get to choose the time zone and our preferred time format, 12 hours or 24 hours. And now we get to create our profile and password for the system. Now we wait a bit till it finishes. What I also really like about MX Linux is that it installs in the background, so the waiting game is really short. After the reboot, we see the welcome screen. I look through the tour and I have to say it's really good. When it comes to the out-of-the-box experience, I have to say we are quite packed here. Of course we got Office software like LibreOffice and even Thunderbird, which is really nice. We have a GUI package manager called MX Package Installer. It has a couple of repos, and one of them is Flatpak. Also many other GUI applications to use, like an updater. So this really gets a pass. With the amount of software, I don't think that you don't have to use a terminal. Their slogan, thoughtful, capable, and ethical computing. The desktop environment looks very like macOS. We are directly greeted with financially supporting the development of elementary OS or just downloading it. App Center, which is also on the website presented. There we can see what applications we got. The App Center uses their own collection of software, but some of the software can be downloaded as a Flatpak. So we gotta see how many repositories we got when we get into the distribution. What I also really like is that it has a collection of keyboard shortcuts. The ISO is 3.3 gigabytes. When first booting into elementary OS, we agreed. When first booting into elementary OS, we are greeted with choosing system language, keyboard layout, and we are given if we want to try it in demo mode or if we want to install. We got an option if we want to encrypt the drive and if we want to include additional drivers. While installs, I have to say the installer is really intuitive and gets a pass here. And it's really beautiful. The distro really tries to imitate macOS to very likely show macOS users an alternative. After the reboot, we are greeted again with picking a language and keyboard layout. And now we get to create an account. After a login, we agreed with a beautiful macOS-like desktop environment and a welcome window where we see stuff like website and basic guide. Choose the look of the system, giving us the possibility to turn on nightlight, aka the blue light filter, being introduced to housekeeping, which is basically a way to keep storage available by automatically deleting files in certain folders, and giving us the option to add an online account, being introduced to the App Center, and a way to make us sideload Flatpaks from FlatHub, and giving us the option for automatic update on free and purchase apps and the operating system. Plus, we are offered to check out the system settings, which look really simple and intuitive. And from what I see in the App Center, we don't have to necessarily sideload Flatpak since there is a Flatpak repo integrated. System, firmware, and driver updates can be done in the settings. Most of the stuff can be done with a GUI. The pre-installed programs are very basic. Elementary OS gets a pass. It feels very simple to use. On the website, we have greeted with the slogan Simple, Fast, and User-Friendly Linux. Linux Lite uses the XFCE desktop environment. We have again here, just like in elementary OS, the option to download directly from a mirror or magnet using a torrent client. In the mirror, we are redirected to a file browser where we can pick version we like and see that in the directory we see an ISO, 2 checksums, and a torrent file. The ISO is 2.1 gigabytes. And let's try it and yeah, for some reason it's not working on my VM. Sadly, I don't know why I tinkered around. All I can really give are things that I see from other people have. First, you start with the usual language picking, pick the keyboard layout, then we pick if we want to download updates while installing, and if we want third-party software for graphics and Wi-Fi hardware. Now we pick if we want to nuke the drive and install the next Lite, or install it alongside another OS, let's say Windows, to jailboot. Pick the location, aka the time zone, and create an account. After the reboot, we are greeted with the welcome screen, where we can install updates, install drivers, set restore point, install language support, and select dark or light themes. I think what I really like there is that there are GUI applications, for example, to turn on tweaks, which is really neat. Linux Lite used to have snapd pre-installed, but with the newer versions, it's gone from there. It also doesn't use Flatpak, which is a thing. I will show you, though, how to install Flatpak support, so that is really important. And yes, you have to use the terminal, so go along with me if you're curious. First, we want to do sudo apt install Flatpak, and then add the FlatHub repository that is with Flatpak. Remote add if not if not exists FlatHub https dl.flathub.org/repo/flathub.flatpak repo. Since I can't really install it because I have some random VM issue, which I don't get why, it's a bit hard to say the out-of-the-box experience, so we got two browsers, that is Chrome and Firefox. We got a bunch of GUI applications that are bundled in the settings for ease of use. And in case of stability, it's Ubuntu based, so we should be good here. We are approaching an area that is not known for being beginner friendly, because they are based on Arch, and they are on a rolling release. But we still see if they are beginner friendly-ish to some degree, since we have tried CashOS, which is based on Arch. Let's start with Manjaro. Yeah, no, I have my personal biases with this too, but I will try to approach it as unbiased as possible. On the website, we can download free versions of Manjaro, KDE Plasma, XFCE, and GNOME. I chose KDE Plasma. The ISO is 5.31 gigabytes. Oh man,
Yes.
heavy. Compared to Endeavour OS, which is 3.15 gigabytes. That's a lot, so let's see what we got here. And we boot into the welcome screen where we can install Manjaro Linux. At first we typically pick our language, pick the time zone, picking the keyboard layout, choose if we want to nuke the drive or to install it alongside another OS, aka manual partitioning, create an account, choose our office suite of choice, LibreOffice or FreeOffice. I chose LibreOffice, and we hit install. Okay. The installation took 3 minutes, apparently, or 4, which is impressive. After the reboot, we are greeted with the welcome screen, and there's a neat button which lets us install software we want and need. All of them being categorized, and in that window we can even update. The installer passes because it was very simple to use. Manjaro has its own geo package manager. In there we can enable the AUR, aka the Arch user repository, and Flatpak support, which is really neat. When it comes to the out-of-the-box experience, it seems to be solid. We got, of course, some of the base KDE software. We got Alyssa, which is a music player, and Qt development tools. Not a critical part of Manjaro. I've tried it a couple of years ago. I was daily driving it, and at some point both Xorg and Wayland just gave up. People will tell you Manjaro is perfectly fine and that people are just exaggerating. From my personal experience, it's been a dumpster fire, and on the broad surface, Manjaro does look pretty solid, but man, it can suck badly. Like I mentioned before, the ISO is 3.15 GB for Endeavour OS, where we can change the screen resolution and update mirrors. And well, start the installer. We have two ways of installing, online or offline. I chose offline. I chose the offline install to go as basic as possible. Again, we start with the classical language selection, time zone, keyboard layout, and this time if we want to install a bootloader or not, which is new to me. By the way, you want to install a bootloader or the system would just simply not boot. Disk partition, even picking what file system we want to pick and how we want to use swap. And of course, account creation. And we hit install. After the reboot, we get hit with the welcome screen where we can update mirrors. In the next tab, we have an assistant where we can install native packages and packages from the AUR. A tab with tips for Endeavour OS. The installer was basically the same experience and pretty easy. When it comes to the out-of-the-box experience, it looks very, very basic. We see the KDE applications and a GUI application for packages and updates. From what I heard, Endeavour OS is really stable, and from what I tried, it seems really good. Calling it beginner-friendly, though, is a stretch since it is Arch-based, and you might run into problems. This should be it. I hope you all enjoyed the video, and see you in the next video. Bye.